Is it true that the derivatives market will be worth $1.2 quadrillion when it comes to blockchain technology? Will this amount actually land up on the blockchain, or will it be much less? I wanted to learn more about the derivatives market and the real financial stakes, and it's far less than I had anticipated, which surprised me. Additionally, I believe that many people are viewing this incorrectly. The derivatives market is enormous, often estimated to be worth over $1 quadrillion on the high end, but how can that be? Largely due to the fact that there are countless derivatives available on almost every type of investment asset, including stocks, commodities, bonds, and currency. That is why I wanted to make a video to better educate you on how I am now looking at the derivatives market. We see $1 quadrillion all the time, but is it really that much? According to some market research, the market size is even greater than 10 times the world's gross domestic product. However, other academics contest these estimations, claiming that the market size for derivatives is greatly exaggerated. Accordingly, some experts have greatly overstated the derivatives market's notional value, which is reportedly above $1 trillion on the high end. The notional value of futures contracts is included in the higher end of these estimations. The netted value of derivatives as of 2021 is 12.4 trillion, however the notional value actually required is 600 trillion. So I looked into this a little more, and sure enough, that's true. In actuality, this is closer to just roughly 17 trillion. As a result, we must reevaluate our current situation and determine how much of this value will truly be added to the chain. So let's get this set up now. Since this clip discusses the derivatives market and I believe many others are making the same error I did want to play it. I'll play this now. It appears that Ripple intends to tokenize or address the derivatives market, which is worth over $1 quadrillion, and that XRP will be used for this purpose. It's not cross-border payments, alright. This and that aren't it. It's the market for derivatives. To deal with all the money seems to be their ultimate objective. As more acceptance occurs and restrictions are put in place, it will be interesting to watch how this plays out in the future. In the end, though, XRP is a digital asset, or, maybe more accurately, a financial tool for value movement. Because it moves so quickly, you could even think of it as a bridge currency to help with liquidity and value transfers. It is inexpensive, quick, and energy efficient. Therefore, once all or a large portion of the value begins to appear on the XRP ledger, the network will experience a price increase if we measure it in dollars. This is because the XRP ledger has a limited supply and demand are the same in tokenomics. If the supply is capped and demand continues to rise due to utility use cases, all of this debt, whether it be equity value debt or other debt, will eventually cause the price to increase. Therefore, it appears that the ultimate objective of XLM, the Star Network, is to create a peer-to-peer network and payment system. Okay. Therefore, after doing some study, I discovered that this is just 17 trillion. Given that the existing gross market valuations offer a reasonable benchmark for the shift, the OTC derivatives market's anticipated transfer to blockchain carry substantial value. Interest rate policy changes caused the OTC derivatives market's gross market value to drop 14% from the previous year to just $17.1 trillion as of mid-2024. The placement cost of all pending contracts is represented by this number, which is more representative of actual economic exposure than a hugely inflated notional value like around 600 trillion. You do realize that a lot of this is margin? There are futures contracts that include a lot of interest, but they may not always reach their destination. You only have contracts worth around $17 trillion because of this. By this 600 trillion value concept. Thus, it's fascinating to see how all of this unfolds. Market segments are perfect for the automation of transition smart contracts, according to ISD, which believes that blockchain-based smart contracts may solve 12 trillion in operational inefficiencies, especially in post-trade procedures like collateral management and reconciliation. The XRP ledger would be excellent at this. Additionally, it discusses cryptocurrency derivatives, even if OTC derivatives experienced a 313% increase in volume in 2025. As you can see, larger institutions are beginning to use derivatives on the DT and XRP ledgers. It claims that real-time regulatory oversight and technological and regulatory readiness distributed ledger technology could lower reconciliation costs in post-trade processing by 30 to 50%. It discusses hybrid systems. I won't go into that. Discusses the adoption timeline. Overcoming integration and standardization issues with legacy systems would be necessary for a full migration. According to BIS projections, by 2030, 5 to 10% of the gross market value, roughly $855 billion to $1.7 trillion, could transition. Therefore, far less than many people initially believed. For this reason, I wanted to discuss this with you all and find out your thoughts. I always assumed you had all of this value in the derivatives market, but did you always comprehend it? So, as I actually got into this, light began to shine, and I realized that, unless you had some kind of market multiplier, it will be far harder to reach a really high price. I then asked it a number of questions, and I posed the following. What would happen to the price of XRP if you were to switch to a single shared ledger? Simply said, I believe it would be a much better position since, if you're paying off, you have 1 million Bitcoin. Let me explain. Your debt is 37 trillion. 1 million Bitcoin is yours. This implies that you would have to sell the Bitcoin at 18 million per token or at 37, 36. 5, 37 million per token if you wanted to pay off half, whatever, or all of your debt. The market capitalization of Bitcoin must reach $770 trillion in order to reach the 36 million Bitcoin. The reason for this is that many are wondering if there is enough money in the world to raise the market value of Bitcoin to 700 trillion. Because you are discussing the possibility of investing ordinary currency, such as paper money, in Bitcoin. All of this debt, the bond market, and the derivatives market can be represented on the blockchain through tokenization, which has far more inherent value than paper money, doesn't it? When it comes to investing in Bitcoin, these solutions just offer greater value than paper money. In any case, I don't want to complicate things here, but you see a lot of people discussing how Swift is being replaced by Ripple, which costs 15,000 per token. People aren't really seeking in the correct area, in my opinion. As if Swift would never be completely replaced by any blockchain. The banks just will not permit it to occur. You may see XRP, Rust, and other items moving throughout the Swift system, but how much of an effect can Ripple actually have there? I believe they may make amazing profits if they concentrate on the bond market. Additionally, some individuals believe that the price of XRP will reflect the value that is expected to appear on the XRP ledger. However, we must realize that the actual value of this is not $1 quadrillion. Alright, okay, everybody, I'll go now. I'll stop there. I was seeking for something else, but this isn't actually legitimate.